Welcome to Ag Update. Whether it's dates, deadlines, or developments, Ag Update is your source for the latest news in the ag industry. And now, here is Ag Update.
Hey, good morning, folks. It is Ag Update. We are coming to you semi-live from the downtown penthouse studios of Adventure Marketing and Town Talk Radio. And folks, we have got a great show today. This is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. Friday, the Gin Show started on Thursday. Friday, Plains Cotton Growers hosted their 60th annual meeting at the Gin Show in conjunction with it. And I had the opportunity to introduce an old friend of mine, Matt Rush. And Matt has got quite a deal going. And I'm very thankful that he was there, and his message was received with open arms, and something that I think everybody in the room needed to hear. And I got the opportunity to pin him down between traveling engagements. And so this morning, we're going to have Matt Rush on and just have a conversation kind of about how he got to what he's doing and what he's doing now. And I think the greatest thing is it's an advocacy thing. And I'm so proud to see it, and I'm really excited about today's show. So, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will come back with our good friend, Matt Rush.
When dealing with farm animals, often there is no time to waste when problems arise. Dr. Jim Ridenauer and his staff are available to meet any medical need with your cattle or horses. For in-house service or ranch calls, Dr. Jim is always available. He recognizes that your farm animals are more than just animals. He knows they also represent your livelihood. Call Terry County Veterinary Hospital at 585-6363 for all your animal needs. Large or small, Dr. Jim is the one to see for your animal's medical care.
Cotton farmers, from planting to harvest, you nurture your crop. At Harvest, you want to use Meadow Farmers Co-op Gin. Since its beginnings in 1935, Meadow Farmers Co-op has prided itself in fast, courteous service to our customers. We provide complete ginning service from the field to the marketing of your crop through PCCA and the SEAM marketing system. Call 806-539-2241 or come by Meadow Farmers Co-op to learn about our service and commitment to you. Meadow Farmers Co-op, celebrating 80 years of service to Terry County.
Texas Ag Plus is proud of Terry County for being the top Texas grape producer in the state of Texas. Texas Ag Plus wants producers to know that they are now selling vineyard supplies. You can get your post, rebar, wire, grow tubes, gripple, pump work, pivot work, underground pipe, and more at Texas Ag Plus. Give them a call at 806-637-4590 or go by their location at 1670 U.S. Highway 62 385 in Brownfield.
Sandia Sprayers strives to give you the best service for all your farming, irrigation, and spraying needs. They offer welding services and can build anything from cattle panels to fold-over toolbars. Stop by the store and shop their name brand selections of parts and tools such as Makita, Wix, T&L, and EnduraPlus. Sandia Sprayers still offers their line of nurse tanks and fertilizer applicator tanks. They provide high-quality products at affordable prices. Give them a call today at 806-387-3049 or stop by their location at 401 Railroad Avenue in Seagraves. No job too big, no task too small.
All right, folks, we are back with Ag Update on Demand, and this morning we have the one and only Wayne. I always want to say Wayne. That's horrible. That's horrible. Your brother's going to love that.
Yeah,
Matt Rush. And Matt, man, just want to say how neat it was on Friday to get to hear your message to a group of producers and ginners on the high plains of Texas. I thought that was an outstanding presentation, and I cannot tell you how nice it is to hear somebody who gets up and preaches the fact that we've got to talk about who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And you did it in such an entertaining way. I'm watching these guys as you tell these two stories, and they're all kind of like, they're laughing, and they're kind of like, okay, well, where are we going to, and then, pow, it just comes across. And it's such a good message and such a timely message.
Well, thank you very much. I do have to point out the fact that you call me my older brother's name. He will get a kick out of that. I always said, in high school, we had a science teacher who gave everybody a nickname. My brother Wayne, his nickname was Wayne the Brain. I was Matt the Hat, if that tells you anything about our mental levels at all.
Exactly.
But I got to tell you, man, thank you so much for this opportunity, but two for plugging what we did last week. It was. I'm doing what I wanted to do from the time I was in the 8th grade. From the time I was in the 8th grade, I knew I wanted to be a farm and ranch guy, and I wanted to speak and train. I wanted to be a motivational speaker from the time I'm this little bitty kid. Always thought I wanted to do that through the political realm, which we'll get into later, but then ended up doing I label myself an inspirational speaker and a farm boy, because that's what it is. And the Plains Cotton Growers meeting was one of the pinnacles of my career, just out on a personal level, because cotton on the high plains of Texas is such a big deal. I mean, it is the deal, right? I mean, when it comes to agriculture, we know who's number one in the world, and it's the plains, And my great granddad planted the first cotton ever grown in Lubbock County, which I pointed this fact out the other day at the meeting, that if you look at Lubbock, Texas, for all of you that are listening out there, Lubbock, Texas, if you the 11 top counties that produce cotton in the world are within an 80-mile radius of Lubbock, Texas, which I think is an amazing feat. We have Amarillo right up the road, which within 100 miles of Amarillo, a radius of Amarillo, you have 80% of the cattle in feedlots. So we have cattle in the north, and we have cotton here. And that's the heart of ag. And when it comes to cotton, my granddad, one of my greats, I don't know how many greats it was, I think it's 3 greats back, planted the first cotton ever grown out here.
And you said, where did he carry it to get it? Colorado City?
Colorado City is what's in the museums. The crazy part about the story too is they moved from East Texas, the Tennessee Valley colony of Anderson County, Texas. They moved from East Texas to Acuff, Texas, east of Lubbock, and they moved in cattle cars. And he packed Mrs. Rush's dishes in cottonseed for the journey, so our dishes would be protected, and then he'd have seed to plant when he got here.
Wow.
And then they move out, and the Rush family and the Davis family, the Davises are all still out at Acuff as well. They moved in cattle cars, of all things, to get out here. And we got out here, okay, it was ranch country, right? I mean, it was the plains.
It's all grass.
It was all grass, and he starts breaking land out. Cowboys grazed him out the first 2 years. And I always thought, and when you growing up hearing these stories, I always thought it was, cowboys didn't want a sodbuster coming out here, but it was a race issue, because with cotton, they were always typically in those days, it was African Americans that came to work the fields, and they didn't want that. It was a race issue that they grazed him out the first 2 years.
Holy cow! And
my granddad persevered. In the 3rd year, he planted cotton and he got a crop, and they hauled it by wagon from Lubbock, Texas to Colorado City, which, how far is that?
That's a good about 2-hour trip now. Now. And so you can imagine that was at least a day, maybe more. Day down, day back, maybe.
I bet and it was probably even more than that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love that part of our history. Number one, we always thought it was cool to, it's cool to be the first, right? But then when you find out what he was up against and what he was facing and how he persevered through that, that throws a whole different light on the situation and makes you really proud that somebody said, hey, I don't care what anybody else thinks about another person. We're gonna do this, and he persevered, which in my opinion goes to ag, which you want me on a soapbox?
Lots of tie-ins.
I can get it on a soapbox quick. That goes to ag about persevering, because if you're in ag, first, foremost, and always, you have to persevere, because the bad years are gonna come, and I just got married in October, as you know, and looking back, just watching Katie being involved in agriculture kind of a little bit for the first time, at least on this personal of a level, and seeing, us plant a crop last year and then not having a good harvest because it didn't get any rain in August, and Milo burned up. And cattle prices were tanked last year. So, her seeing that, having a bad year is a bad year, right? I mean, it's not just a moment, it's a whole year of your life that's gone, and then you have to persevere to another year to get a crop. So that part for me was really cool. So speaking at the Plains Cotton Growers was really a highlight for me. It was, I got the call from the Zig Ziglar family to come speak with them, and I always thought that was going to be the pinnacle of my career. And truly, that's like getting called up to the major leagues when you want to be an inspirational speaker, is getting the call from the Ziegler family, and they call me little brother now. And I love that, but man, that last week was that ranks for me. That ranks for this farm boy.
Well, it was neat because Mary Jane Berkeley called me about, I guess it was nearly 2 months prior, and she said, "Hey, we've got a guy that's going to come and speak at the annual meeting. I'd like for you to introduce him." And I said, "Really? Who's coming?" And she said, "Matt Rush." And I said, "Matt?" I said, "Matt's going to speak at." I said, "Man, that's awesome." I said, "Y'all landed him?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "I had heard him speak, and I think it was her that had heard you speak." And she said, I want him to do it." I believe is how that went. My memory fades with two 11-year-olds running around crazy. But anyway,
they say memory is the second thing that goes.
Yeah, well,
I forgot
I'll tell you
what
about the first two.
was,
But anyway, yeah, that's yeah. But it just the thing that I like is and I guess that impresses me is, number one, you've got a deep passion for what you do, and you do it very well. And again, the talk that you gave on Friday was very entertaining, and he's got a couple of stories that he tells that I'm like, where are you going with this? And we were laughing our head off, but we were like, where are you going with this? And how neatly it all ties back together and into what your comments were that day.
Yeah, thanks.
But now I'm going to go back just a little bit, because we met at LCU. You were several years younger than me at LCU, but
many years younger.
Always said, many years. Yeah, listen to him. Yes, I am a geezer. I'm a geezer, as my 11-year-olds remind me of. But always knew then he's going to do something. My ultimate goal is for him to be president someday. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but definitely has and did then had that personality and has done very well with it. I know you did a lot of work with LCU for a while, and those kind of things. I know that you told me that you're working with Dr. James Johnson, who was the head of that communications department when I started. Who was a great guy. I thoroughly enjoyed him because I wanted an ag comm degree. And Texas Tech did not offer that then. They had, you could get it as a minor at an ag ed, and I didn't want to be an ag teacher.
Right.
And about the time I got ready to graduate, they started with ag comm.
Really?
But Dr. Johnson said, "Hey, we can throw some ag classes in. We can get you what you want." But he said, "Yeah, you can most definitely do that at LCU." So, special guy. But anyway,
no doubt.
You guys are from Dora, New Mexico, as
The
you
Big
said
D.
at the very end of 19th Street. I hadn't heard that analogy before. So
You had to get to growing up, when you're going to school in Lubbock, and I loved my experience at Lubbock Christian University, loved the people that I met there, salt of the earth. As I always say, I didn't get to go to Texas Tech. We just prayed for them before we went to their football games, right?
Amen.
And I loved that. But growing up there, people would say, "Well, where did you grow up?" And you say Dora, New Mexico. Nobody even knows where that is unless you follow baseball, and then you know Larry Hayes, right? So people wouldn't know where Dora was, and I say, "Well, get on 19th Street and go west. The first stop sign in New Mexico. That's it." And it's like from Loop 289 to the stop sign in Dora is 100 miles on the dot.
The big city.
Like the big city. And I tell groups this now, and especially if I get to talk to any young people. When I talk to a group of young adults, one, I try to obviously try to be funny, because that keeps people's attention. And I think this world's way too serious anyway, and we take things way too personal. But I always tell these young kids in a funny way. I said, I graduated valedictorian in my class. And I ask how many of them are going to graduate valedictorian of their class, and you hardly ever get any hands go up. And I say, of course, there were only 6 in my class. And, it's always laughs. I always say, you're from a small town, and to be in the top 10%, you have to be number 1.
Exactly,
Right?
Exactly, yeah.
And you can always see people's brains running the math in their head. They're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Slowly but surely.
But here, growing up in Dora, New Mexico, I say raised in obscurity. I mean, the nearest town was Portales. And we're 31 miles from Portales to the south, raised in absolute obscurity on a dirt road on a dryland farm and ranch, and yet here's a boy from Dora, New Mexico, and I tell these kids, I've traveled all 50 states. I've been in Canada. I've been in Mexico. I've been in Europe. And this fall, speaking, we're working out the contract to go to China and do Hong Kong and mainland China, to do some speaking and training over there. And here's a farm boy from Dora, and I've been able to do this, and I've been blessed immensely, but I've also done it with conviction and with purpose and with intent, and we'll get into the point of my speech earlier. But that was it, If I can do that, if a boy from Dora can do that, what can a kid do today? I mean, because this was an interesting fact I learned, and I just picked up my cell phone. Did you know that the technology that drives your cell phone is greater technology than launched the space shuttle into orbit? We have faster technology in the palm of our hand than what we sent people into outer space with, and yet we look at it as something that's just it's a given now. And so, what could someone accomplish today if we can do what we've done in our lifetime, man, because they've got a young person today, an adult, anyone that wants to do something with their life has every tool at their disposal, and it's usually so easy that they don't do it, because what's easy to do is easy not to do as well.
Exactly.
So it's a fire 'em up. But yeah, growing up in the big city of Dora, New Mexico, K through 12. Kindergarten, I actually went to Elida, and that's the big rivalry over there. But then from first grade through 12th grade at Dora, and then get to go to Lubbock Christian and off. And we talked about it a little bit before about you wanted me to talk about my political career, because I really am serious. From the time I was in the 8th grade, I knew what I wanted to do, but I always thought speaking and training, I wanted to do it through politics. I wanted to run for office. And when I got to Lubbock Christian, that's what I want to do. I mean, I was freshman class president, I was junior class president, I was student body president my senior year, the year the dorms burned down. Remember that?
Oh my gosh,
I was
student
body president the year Johnson Hall burned down in Lubbock.
Oh wow,
it's a big deal. So that's what I always thought I wanted to do. But made 2 attempts at it in as I refer to New Mexico as the motherland. Made 2 attempts. Ran for state representative in 2008. Took on a sitting incumbent because we didn't like his voting record. Thought he had a horrific voting record. Took him on. I was 34 years old at the time. Looked like I was 12. And that was the year that President Obama won. So as a conservative Republican, not exactly a good year to take on a sitting incumbent, especially at 34 years old.
But quite a race.
It was. And then 2 years later, that seat was an open seat. I was going to run for state representative again, and a group of guys came to me and said, hey, would you consider running for state land commissioner? Which in New Mexico, just like in Texas, it's a big deal. It's as I found out, it's the second most powerful position in the state, sitting next to the governor. Nobody even knows what it does. So after a lot of thought and a lot of prayer, I said, okay, let's do it. This is a fit. I mean, it's dealing with ag, it's dealing with the extractive industries, oil and gas, and minerals, and farmers and ranchers. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I mean, this is it, right? And so dove into that race and campaigned like there was no tomorrow. 36 years old and ran for 14 months is how long the campaign lasted. I quit doing anything else, and it was full-time campaigning for 14 months. There was 4 of us on the Republican primary. I won the Republican primary with like 66% of the vote with the 4 people. The guy who won the Democrat primary had served as land commissioner for 8 years, set out for 8, and was running again for that office. While he was sitting out, he ran for lieutenant governor. His dad was the chairman of the state Democrat Party, and he had the same name, and he's from Albuquerque. So when he won the Democrat primary and I won the Republican primary, I told the kids that were working for me, I said, we're going to have to work twice as hard with half the money, because nobody's going to think we stand a chance of winning. His greatest strength is our greatest weakness, and that's Albuquerque. And in New Mexico, that's half your votes. Half the population live in one metro area. So I said, it's going to be an uphill battle, but we're going to play to win. And on election night, it's one of those deals you never forget it. Our race was the last one called. They called the governor's race, lieutenant, Secretary of State, Attorney General, U.S. Congress, Senate. Our race was the last one called of the night, and they called it, I think it was like 1 in the morning, and Taos County came in, and we lost. And, it's like a gut punch, right? I mean, here I've spent every dime plus a lot of borrowed money. I have spent 14 months of my life. I have aged, as you can see from the picture, drastically over those 14 months. And you lose, and you're like, now what? I've invested everything, and I have lost.
But, and like I said earlier, I don't remember who told me this, if it was you or your sweet sister. Let's talk about the phone call when you got that little bit of perspective.
Man, I am convinced that God puts people into your life at certain times when you just really need somebody. He puts people into your life, and I'll never forget it. I never went to sleep that night. I am depressed beyond comprehension. I have literally lost everything. I'm just going to have to start all over, and it's a new day. I never went to sleep. I'm really depressed. Family's all there, so, no, it's just awkward, too, because everybody's telling you, oh, we're so sorry, you did so good. But it's just awkward, and you just blew. My cousin and his wife live on the west side of Albuquerque. They called and said, well, come over for lunch. So we left the hotel where we were having our election night party, heading to their house. I can still tell you on I-25 where I was at. I was headed northbound on I-25 close to the Jefferson exit. Not that I remember, but I can tell you exactly where it was. And I get a phone call on my campaign cell phone. Answer the phone. Guy tells me who he is. I didn't know him. I didn't recognize his name. I don't remember his name. And he said, "Is this Matt Rush?" And I said, "Yes, sir, it is." He goes, "Well, young man, I'm calling to tell you something that you don't want to hear." Well, okay, at this point,
else?
What do I care? I
Yeah.
mean, right? Like, big deal. Go ahead. I don't care anymore, right? And he said, "I'm going to tell you something that you need to hear." He said, "You're a 36-year-old nobody from Dora, New Mexico, and you only needed another 2.5% to take out a political icon in the Democrat Party of New Mexico." He said, "You got nothing to be ashamed of, boy. Now just get over it." And I was like, "Well, yes, sir." I mean, and it was like the grieving process was over. It was like everything had came. I know this has been a purpose. I'm proud of what we did, but it's like, okay, next. And it was like it was over with. And I was like, what great words of wisdom from a guy that I didn't even know, but he really, like slapping you across the face or pouring cold water on you, waking you up, saying, "Hey, you got
I always call it the DiNozzo slap. Right in the back of the head. Right in the back of the head, you know?
And, you know, and in retrospect, I look at that. If I hadn't have ran and if I hadn't have lost, I wouldn't have became CEO for New Mexico Farm Bureau, because 2 weeks later they had some turnover in their organization and asked me to step in and because of my running and because of the connections and because of my experience, I become the interim CEO for New Mexico Farm Bureau. Promised them a year to help them get through a transition. Ended up staying for almost 3.5, and we righted the ship. And God blessed us immensely, and when we flat out turned some things on and really did some great work, and really proud of that time period. But if I hadn't have lost, I wouldn't have got that job. If I hadn't have got that job, I wouldn't have met the Dale Carnegie people, which Carnegie's a 100-year-old company, known worldwide for speaking. They offered me a job. And I accepted it, gave my notice. They needed some transition time. I needed transition time to find my replacement. So we put in a 6-month transition time. About 2 months into that transition, that deal fell apart. Like no fault of theirs. It just happened. And so here I'm like, oh my goodness, here I've quit my job. I had the corner office job, for Pete's sake, and great pay, and I've quit. Now I don't have anything. Again, panic in the streets, right? 10 minutes I go through all the ranges of emotion. I can still tell you where I was at in El Paso when they gave me the news that this deal had fallen apart. 10 minutes later, I'm like, wait a minute. I know what I prayed for, and I know that this is the right thing, and it's going to be okay. And the next week, the Zig Ziglar family reached out to me. And made me know, and they made me ask me to come be a part of their organization, and they're just a great fit. They're not afraid to tell you about their faith. They're not afraid to tell you where leadership principles originate and where moral principles originate. So it's just a great fit. So in retrospect, you look back on these bumps in life, and like, if I hadn't ran and lost, I wouldn't have got this job, which led me to this. And if that hadn't have fell through, I wouldn't have accepted this. And it's put me where I am today, and man, everything's hindsight's 20/20, right? And thank God for it, because sometimes when we look back, it looks rough, but and when we're going through it, sometimes it feels like it is a rough deal. It feels like we're gotten held out, right?
Yep. And there's always a place to end up.
And there's always a place.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to visit a little bit more with Matt, and I kind of want to delve into what you're doing right now, and how you've gotten to take your passion, which is ag, and it's evident to see, and turned it into something really special. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, folks.
Since 1986, Golden Peanut Company has been a global leader in the peanut industry. Golden has been helping farmers in West Texas over the past 3 decades as markets, manufacturers, and consumers have evolved. With their experience, Golden helps growers decide what to do before planting, throughout the season, and after harvest. Contact Kyle Horde at 806-487-6485 today for your next peanut contract. Golden Peanut Company, connecting farmers to manufacturers and families around the globe.
Diversity Irrigation is your full-service Rain-Key dealer. Durability, ease of use, and state-of-the-art technology make Rain-Key Pivot's energy, labor, and water efficient. At Rain-Key, the philosophy is simple: to exceed our customers' expectations of quality, service, and innovation. Call the team of pros at Diversity Irrigation at 637-0593 to find out how a new Reinke irrigation system can help score more points in your farming operation. Diversity Irrigation and Reinke together, they're more right than rain.
Tejas Peanut Company reminds you that they are here for the peanut producer. Tejas Peanut Company, located on Farm Road 403, sells seeds for any variety of peanuts. We specialize in runners, Virginias, and Spanish, which are well suited to the peanut producer and our weather conditions. Call 637-0568 today for seed or peanut contract information. Tejas Peanut Company, handling the farmer's needs from planting through harvest.
Town Talk Radio, the voice of Terry County, is your source for free news and event updates. Listen live at towntalkradio.com or download our free app today. Town Talk Radio is also the voice for regional high school sports, offering internet radio broadcast at no cost to the school. Call us at 806-637-0030 and don't miss another game. Town Talk Radio is a production of Adventure Marketing.
Family-owned Birdsong Peanuts is feeding the world and making Terry County a leader in the peanut industry. From certified seed cells to shelled products, whether runner, Virginia, or Spanish variety, Birdsong can serve the producer's needs. All types of grades of human and animal edible peanuts are processed at Birdsong, including peanut oil, peanut meal, and peanut hulls. Birdsong has been serving area peanut growers since 2004. Call 806-637-1800 today to see what they can do for you. Birdsong Peanuts, helping Terry County feed the world.
Hey, folks, and we're back with Ag Update, and again, our good friend Matt Rush, talking about a lot of neat things that happen, and of course, you just kind of hit on the trail that's kind of led you to where you are now, and I know the Ziegler's played a huge role in that. I know that you are obviously one of their favorite people, being called a brother now, and I think that is a heck of a compliment.
All the time. I tell them I'm their favorite people too.
I got to hear Zig right before he died.
Oh, no
in
kidding!
Lubbock. The daughter came with him.
I went to that.
Okay.
I was there too.
Okay, I was in the building too, and I'd always listen to his tapes when I was on the road selling for Consolidated Bearing after I got out of college. I always listened to the Zig's tapes, cassette tapes at the time.
Right.
While I was driving down the road, and had read several of his books, and always taken by the man and the amazing way that he put stuff and the way that he put everything in perspective by what he believed. And so it was a great treat to get to go to that. I got to hear him that day. We got to hear Rudy Giuliani, but he was the highlight of the day.
Totally.
And at that point, the daughter was with him and kind of helping him through that. He'd taken a really nasty fall and had some issues, but did whatever that spark is that he's got, it was there. That was never gone. No. And all he needed was her. But it was so tremendous to hear it coming from him in his voice.
Oh, I'll never forget it either. And I really applaud the family for what they did for him, because when he fell down the stairs, and it was a bad fall, it basically triggered a real fast dementia, a real quick, basically Alzheimer's, but he still had that spark, like you said. And he still had this, and the family still wanted to honor that, and he still wanted to speak, but he didn't have short-term memory, so he could tell a story, and he didn't remember that he had just told that story. So he couldn't speak by himself anymore, and everybody's upset, everybody's disappointed. So they came up with the idea, and Julie, in fact, she and Tom and I were texting last week, just some fun stuff. But Julie, his daughter, Julie Ziegler Norman, she actually would basically interview him, and if he got off topic, or if he started to repeat himself, she could bring him back in a way that only a daughter could, who loved her daddy and respected him. And it ended up being such an honor. The way they honored him by that allowed him to keep speaking, even though he was coming to definitely in the twilight of his years, and was still able to keep speaking and training. But talk about Zig was from Yazoo City, Mississippi. I mean, that's a small town in Mississippi, farm town. I mean, nowhere in Mississippi, right? And yet by the end of his career, and he didn't start speaking and training until he was 45 years old. Most people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
He was in sales, cookware salesman, and 45 years old. And guess who one of the first people that hired him to come speak to her sales agents? Mary Kay Ash.
Really?
So one of his first gigs as a speaker was to go inspire Mary Kay's representatives. And then from 45 years old to the end of his life, and I think he was in his late 80s. I can't remember exactly, but a 45-year career, spoke in front of 250 million people around the globe. And this is in the 70s, mostly in the 80s, 90s. There was no internet.
No.
He wasn't doing YouTube
No.
radio interviews.
But that spoke to his charisma and his ability
exactly right.
to get you on the page with him.
So and I tell that story a lot, not to highlight him and with respect for Mr. Ziegler, but if a guy from Yazoo City, Mississippi, number 9 of 12 kids raised by a single mom, can do what he did in his time, if a boy from Dora can go to all 50 states, for Pete's sake, I mean, what can you do with your life? And that Jim Rohn is another motivational speaker that old school guy that I listen to even still to this day, and he was the same era as Zig. And Jim has this famous quote, and I love it. And Jim said, if you don't like where you are, change it. You're not a tree. I'm like, right?
Makes sense.
It does make sense. And those of us in ag, and you know how it is. You know, when you're from ag, you are ag, right? And this is my family's been in production agriculture for 8 generations. As far back as we can trace it, we've been in production ag. So I love that heritage. I love that history. And that's those of us in ag. I mean, we have to constantly be changing. We have to constantly be improving. We have to be improving what we're doing, how we're doing it. We have to be improving ourselves to do it. I mean, for Pete's sake, who would have thought even 10 years ago that we would have tractors that drive themselves and planters that are so smart that it takes a computer programmer to run them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a constant evolution of, hey, we didn't like where we're at, so we're going to change it. We're going to make it better. We're going to stay on top of our game constantly and consistently. And in my messaging, I think that's one of the things that those of us in ag definitely forget, because we get so caught up in the minutia of the day, which is a nice way of saying, another word.
Yes.
We get so caught up
Definitely.
in the stuff that happens on a daily basis that we forget who we are. Number one, whose we are, but two, who we are, and that what we are doing actually does impact people all over planet Earth today.
You know, the funny thing when you say that, and I tell people that I get to visit with come through our place for, we have people come through. We love to give tours. We love to take people through our gin.
Right.
And I tell everybody, if you're not a businessman, you're not in agriculture anymore.
That's
you're
a
just
fact.
not. But I get tickled because it's funny. You just pointed out everything. We have a program in Terry County called ACE, Ag Career Expo. And, in fact, it's going to happen next month. And they're going to tour our place. They're going to tour the Bingham's Winery.
Oh, sure.
They're going to tour the dairy that's out by the Binghams. They're also going to tour Brownfield Co-op over here, the supply store. But our message is that it doesn't matter what your interest is, whether that's biology, whether that is computers, whether that is programming, whether that is actually going out and driving a tractor all day, if that is being a ranch hand, or if that is being a microbiologist that deals with cellular-based DNA. There's a place for you in agriculture.
Right.
It is not just what people used to think. They think it's 500 acres and a really nice little house with a front porch on it and an old dog sitting on the front porch, and it's not anymore. And there's so much to do out there, and there's so many opportunities that get overlooked because people have that one view of what those of us in agriculture do. And so to hear you talk about, and I want to talk about the 3 V's, and I want you to talk about that, but one of them was visible, I believe, if I remember correctly, because I couldn't make notes. I forgot to bring any paper with me, and I should have known.
I don't worry. I'll give you my speech again. I don't mind.
But that ties in with what we're doing, because we want to be visible, and we want these young people to see that, hey, if you want to, whatever your interest is, whatever you want to do, you can do that and be part of one of the greatest industries in the world, and that's agriculture in the United States.
Absolutely.
And on the high plains of Texas. And so I'm going to try to tie this up real neatly. Friday, folks. Wow, that's awful. Wayne's laughing. I'm sorry.
He's gonna love it. Now, the next thing you
because I dealt with Wayne for several years when he was doing production work for
sure.
FiberMax. So you'll have to forgive my weak mind. The thing that Matt did on Friday that I thought was so unique is the fact that he uses his humor, which you can tell he's a great storyteller and a funny guy. But he tied that package up really neatly to a room full. I go back to this, and I said it in the introduction, to a room full of guys who do it every day. Those of us, some of my gin buddies were in there, and some political folks. In fact, Chairman Conway took several cues from your speech, and he is one of my heroes. He is definitely one of the guys who walks the walk and talks the talk.
Absolutely.
Every day. Doesn't change. Most unwavering guy, I believe, that is in Washington right now. One of the true good guys.
Agreed.
And I watched how you weaved all this together to talk about your passion and what you believe in and what you think we need to do as a group, as agriculture. So with that, I want you to talk about the 3 Bs. We've probably got another 10 minutes. Danessa hasn't given me the slash throat yet. But in about 10 minutes, I want you to talk about the 3 Bs, because I think that that's something that our audience in particular, because we talk about it on here, any opportunity you get to entertain folks who want to see your operation, anytime you get to talk to somebody who's in the political arena who is making the laws that we're all going to live under, and the new Farm Bill is a prime example, take those opportunities. I preach that every time I'm on here. But your 3 V's, I thought, hit a really particularly strong chord on Friday with that group, because after the 14 Farm Bill, especially those of us who are in cotton and those who work with producers every day, cotton was excluded from the title. The only thing we got is crop insurance, and that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, folks. That's a good thing. But to be stripped away and kept out of the title was a huge blow to us. And my personal opinion, and I thought of Town Talk Radio's, is it was a retaliatory measure because of what happened with Brazil.
Absolutely.
So with that long drawn out introduction, I want you to talk about the 3 V's right quick.
Okay. Well, and you know what? I'll allude to this. My sweet bride said afterwards. She asked me. She goes, "Well, how did you feel?" Because she always asks, how I felt about that presentation. I said, "Well, one, I'm still kind of in awe that I got to do this, but I said it's always a great compliment when the next speaker, especially being a congressman that you really admire and respect, brings back some of the points that you made." And that's what I think we've got to start doing a better job at in agriculture, is telling our story in a way that someone else wants to hear it. All too often we want to spew information on people and tell people why we do what we do, and how good it is, and how right we are, and how they should care for us, and how they should help us, and it's all I, and we need to be relating that, telling our story so that we can show people why what we do matters to them. And just in saying it that way, you can tell it changes the atmosphere of the conversation. So that's what I've tried to do in my speaking, is to say, okay, you guys are worth something, and you really are. The number one thing, you're valuable. That's my number one thing, because I don't care who you are. If I can't help you with your self-image first and foremost, I nothing else is going to matter. So you're valuable. And how are you valuable? Number one, you're part of the greatest industry, in my opinion, on the planet Earth. What we do in agriculture is what God told Adam and Eve to start doing from the beginning of time. Take care of my garden, farm, he said. You have dominion over the animals. You're ranchers. You farm and you ranch. So we're part of this great industry, and we forget that because we get so beat up by everything. I mean, as I say, from weather to legislative issues to just plain old hard work, and the list can go on and on and on and on. We're faced with constant changes and challenges. And we forget how truly valuable we are, in that what we do, especially here on the High Plains, because we're so good at ag in the United States of America, that one of our states, for example, is the 5th largest ag economy in the world. California by itself is the number 5 ag economy on planet Earth.
Good.
One of our states does that. Does that mean we're valuable? You're doggone right it is. That's a crazy value, and we need to know that. We need to be told that, hey, we're good. And we should be proud of that. But then number 2, viable. How are we in ag viable? And I relate it to a seed. A seed to be productive. A seed to be successful, to yield a successful crop at the harvest. A seed has to be viable. A seed has to be willing and able to grow. And I say I can sum up all leadership training in 3 words, and that's get over yourself. The day you realize it's not about you, it's about what we're doing for our family, for our friends, for our community, for our state, for our country, for our world. When we realize it's about everybody else, not just us, is the day everything's going to change. But we are willing and able to grow in agriculture, because look at where we've come in the last 10 years, for Pete's sake. Look where we've come. We're extremely willing and able to grow. So we're valuable, we're viable, we're incredibly valuable, but third and most importantly, we have got to be visible. And I told this story, and if it's okay, I'll tell it now. this happened on a flight from Albuquerque to Denver. I was speaking in Albuquerque. I needed to get to a conference in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And as I say, you fly from Albuquerque to Denver, then they put you in a box and they throw you up to Wyoming. You know, if you don't know God, you'll meet Him before you pass the state line. But what happened on the flight from Albuquerque to Denver, and I set this up, man, make a fool of myself telling the story. But the bottom line is, this lady walks onto the plane, and she looked like a freak of nature. She had on a black spandex unibody suit. She had on boots that came up to her knees that were so pointy they could drive a fishing nail on a baseboard. She had on a white fur coat that went all the way to the floor. And as I say, to top off said ensemble, as valedictorian in my class, she had on a purple straw cowboy hat. And as soon as she walked onto the front of the plane, I'm like, yep, there she is. She's going to sit by me. I know it. I attract them. And sure enough, she comes and she sits right down by me. And she says, and I try to avoid a conversation with her, and I end up realizing that, she's starting to question me, talk so much, I realize I am going to have a conversation with this lady-ish, as I refer to her. And she asked, so what do you do? And I said, well, farm and ranch and do leadership training, motivational speaking. Before I could even finish, she interrupts me. She says, you're a real-life farmer? And I said, yeah, you want to pitch me? She goes, that's funny. I've never met a real-life farmer before. And she said, do you mind if I ask you some questions? I'm like, not at all. And she proceeded to ask me questions about agriculture like I have never been asked by anyone in my life. She asked me about organic, non-organic. She asked me about GMOs. She asked me about HMOs. She asked me about antibiotics in livestock. I mean, she asked me one question right after another. I mean, she challenged my thinking on some of the questions. She started asking about the Farm Bill, for Pete's sake. And she heard that farmers just farm for the check, right? I mean, we've all heard that before.
Oh, wow.
So here she's regurgitating information that she's heard. She challenges my thinking on some of her questions, and she finally stops talking long enough, and I said, so what do you do? And she said, well, I'm an actress. And I said, well, I've never met a real live actress before. And she goes, you want to pinch me? I'm like, that's funny. Like, I deserve that. And I got to ask her all kinds of questions about acting. And she's not a name that you would recognize. She's not a person you would know. But she's played in B roles and behind-the-scenes roles, and she's minor roles. But she named off all the movies that she played in, and she told me how many lines she got in each movie and which scenes she had gotten. And fascinating conversation. And she'd been in Albuquerque trying out for a role in a new movie. So we're still talking to each other as we walk out the jet bridge in Denver and to the airport in Denver in the terminal. And she gets out in that terminal, and she kneels down, sets her briefcase down, starts rummaging through her briefcase. And she stands up and she hands me a business card. And she said, and I quote, I'll never forget it. She said, here, I want you to have my personal business card. If I ever make it big in acting, I want to be your spokesperson.
Wow.
And I got chills. But the first thought that went through my head was shame on me, because someone looked different than I do. And as I say to every ag group I talk to, because someone looked different than we do, I didn't want to have a conversation with her. But because I got over myself long enough to have a conversation with this lady, I had somebody say, and I want to be your spokesperson. Can you imagine what kind of industry we would operate in agriculture if we had people in Hollywood, California lobbying for us? Can you imagine what it would be if we had people in our state capitals and in our nation capitals standing up for us saying, hey, these guys, there's less than 2% of them in our country, and yet they feed not only this country, but countries all over the planet. Leave them alone. They're great at doing what they do. But those of us in ag, we're perfectly content to sit on a tractor, sit on a horse, and just do our job. And we really would like to be left alone to do our job. But in the absence of our voices, those who don't know us, don't understand us, or don't like us are redefining who we are. We're more viable than we've ever been in the history of our industry. We have become so good at what we do that the value that we bring to the world is immense when one of our states' number 5 economy. But the importance of us being visible is more important now than ever, because people just want to know that what we do is okay for them and their family. That's it. The people at the store just want to know, hey, you're just a farmer. Well, how does it matter to me? Mm-hmm. And when they know who we are, but more importantly, why we do what we do and how it impacts them, then it's a game changer. Then we have people standing up saying, we're your spokesperson. We got your back. You go do what you do. We got this. Yeah. And that's when it changes the whole. So the importance of us being viable, valuable, and visible is immense. And I think we got the greatest story ever told, like next to the one that's in the good book. And we just need to be unashamed to tell it.
Well, and like I said, I'm constantly amazed, because I tell my girls, I don't care what you do. Number one, there's an art to it. I don't care if you're laying brick. I don't care if you're a plumber.
That's right.
I don't care if you're a ginner, or I don't care if you're a farmer. There's an art to what you do. You have to be good at it, and you learn all the tricks of the trade. You learn all the ways to do it and to do it well, and our guys do a better job at what they do than anybody in the world. But I also tell my girls that your life's a ministry, whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to brag on my wife. My wife is a dyslexic coordinator for Brownfield ISD. She teaches kids how to read.
Wow.
That can't read, that physically cannot read. She helps them essentially rewire their brain to where they can read. And I don't care what you do in this world, if you can't read, you can't do anything.
That's right.
And to unlock that key and to be able to do what she does always constantly amazes me, and that's her ministry. And in the same way, as I pointed out the other day in my introduction, and I said the same thing. I said, you know, this is what I try to teach my kids. Your life's a ministry. It doesn't matter what you do, how you do it. To know you, to know where you're from, to have been around you when you were in college. And I'm sure there are interesting stories that someday some of us will share with your beautiful wife. But to see what you're doing now, and to take your love of where you grew up and what you do, you're an active farmer and rancher right now. But to take that and go and speak in front of thousands of people all the time. I mean, you're on the go all the time. I mean, you're going to be, what, Minnesota next week?
No, back to Michigan.
Back to Michigan, I'm sorry. Back to
Michigan.
Michigan. To do that and to be truly an advocate is just really, really awesome to me, because your message means more, because you're not just telling the story, you're living the story and have lived the story your whole life. In fact, you nearly lost your life on that farm, and that's another story for another day, because my good friend sitting in front of me is authoring a book, and the title is Everything to that book. But to see that and to see the passion that you have with what you do is absolutely amazing. And I thoroughly enjoyed myself Friday, because I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to be good. But to see what you did with that crowd of people who probably hadn't seen you yet, or some of them had, you know, those of us that had were kind of in the back. And all the people that knew you, you know, I got tickled at how many people you know that I know. It's funny how small the world really is.
Truly.
But to see that and see you convey that message with the passion and the fun that you have while you do it is really cool. And I can't tell you, and cool's really not a good word for that, but that's the only one that comes to mind, because you're getting to do what you love, and you do it every day, and you do it well.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you make a difference. You make a difference for us that do it every day in our jobs because of what you do and how you do it. And again, when the chairman of the House Ag Committee gets to hear probably the last 5-10 minutes of your speech, which were actually the most intense and some of the most passionate that you had, because we talked about those 3 V's, you talked about them, and then turns around in his comments and goes back to that and tells those guys, the man's exactly right. You have to be visible, and you have to tell your story.
Yeah.
Was really neat. And so anyway, I'm so proud that you're doing what you're doing, and I'm so proud that you have, because it's your life's work, and you're going to do nothing but go bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's cool to see your ministry in action.
Well, thank you very much. I've been told before that our lives are the only sermon some people ever see, and some only sermon some people ever hear. I've definitely got some spots in mind that I can tell you what I did wrong, and I can show you where I really messed up. But at the end of the day, I can't do anything about those deals. I can only play the one hand I've got, and that's today, and we're going to run with today. And I just, for those of us in ag, for those people who do what we do, it's just, man, it's a gift to be able to hopefully inspire, encourage, and tell people that, you know, you can do more, be more, and become more than you ever thought possible. Just get over yourself long enough to get there, and we can do it, and together we can. So I love what I do. I as those of us in ag, you couldn't be a farmer or rancher if you didn't love it, and I feel like the most blessed man in the world. That's for sure. So thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate what you do, and I know we're going to continue to see more and more from you, which is going to be awesome. And I appreciate you taking time today to come over, because I know you got a crazy schedule, because, again, you're headed back out on the road. But I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. And again, I really appreciate what you do, because we need more people like you that tell our story with the conviction and the passion that you've got for it, because there's just not enough of that. So
it's an honor.
Again, thank
Truly.
you very
Thank
much.
you, man.
Very much. Danessa hasn't given me the sign yet, but Hey, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will come back and kind of wrap up today. And with that, we'll take a 4-ad break. We'll be right back.
Got some property to take care of? Let Kubota help you out. Known worldwide as a leading seller of compact tractors and diesel utility vehicles, Kubota has the equipment to help get your work done. With a variety of tractors and a range of horsepower options, Kubota delivers the efficiency, power, and comfort to handle light construction, landscape work, and chores on the farm. Take on your toughest jobs with a Kubota. See your local dealer today.
When it comes to delicious food, great wine, and an inviting atmosphere, look no further than the Triple D. The Triple D offers not only unique food items on their menu, they also have an excellent assortment of your favorite wines to go along with your meal. Located in downtown Brownfield, the Triple D isn't just a restaurant, it's also a great place to enjoy a glass of wine while listening to some of the best in live entertainment. The Triple D is open Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Friday evenings between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. Check out their Facebook for daily lunch specials, as well as their live entertainment schedule. Call 637-0243 or just stop by their location at 519 West Main. The Triple D, your first stop for fun, food, and wine.
Do you have trouble fitting bankers' hours into your schedule? That's not a problem when you bank with Sundown State Bank. Access your account, find balances, make transfers, and much more with Sundown's online banking service. Sundown State Bank online banking goes with you wherever you go, 365 days a year. The friendliness of hometown banking with the convenience of big town financial services. Sundown State Bank, 101 South 1st in Brownfield.
Did you know that Adventure Marketing is not only the best stop for your marketing needs, it also can supply your business or group with t-shirts, caps, and apparel. We work with dozens of manufacturers to find the right product to deliver your message. Choose from thousands of items in quantities from 1 to 1 million. Call Adventure Marketing today at 806-637-0030 and let us help you promote your business.
For over 60 years, Carter & Company Irrigation has been serving the farmers in West Texas. They offer full-service repair for any brand system, whether new or existing. Above or below ground, Carter & Company can fix any electrical or irrigation leak. Contact salesman Ronnie Raines at 806-637-2053 and ask about their new Zematic pivots. In addition to handling all of your irrigation needs, Carter & Company also carries Green Mountain and Louisiana grills. Stop by and see the newest innovation in outdoor grilling, located in Brownfield and Seminole. Carter & Company is your hometown choice for all your irrigation needs.
All right, we are back with Ag Update and our good friend Matt Rush, and as you like to so often say in your Facebook post, the gooder guy. And lots of cool things going on in your life. As we wrap this up today, tell us what's coming.
Well, do you know where that gooder came from? So, you know me being the quote inspirational speaker guy, right? I'm on 24/7, right? I mean, I try to fire, even if I don't feel good on a particular day. If you can make somebody else feel good, it makes you feel better. So I'm going through the checkout line at Walmart one day, and this, I'm always, well, how are you today? And the lady said, I'm good. How are you? And I said, well, I'm gooder. And it caught her off guard, and she stopped and she laughed, and I was like, that's it. So now
Perfect.
It's just something different that I started saying. So now it's, hey, I'm not good, I'm gooder. So we started a company called A Gooder Life. Our motto is life is good, let's make it gooder. And the thing about ag that I am so passionate about is that agriculture and her people are resilient. We've always handled the ups and downs, maybe with an ounce of doubt, but never with a second guess at what we do is what God himself intended for us to do. And we believe that's true down to our core. And at the same time, I know that ag is overlooked because we are such a small, minuscule percent of the population. So I said, what if we tried to make ag people gooder? There's guys sitting out on tractors and horses, and there's ladies sitting on tractors and horses, and they're just it's the daily grind. And people don't get it. So we're about to launch. You're the first one I've told this story
Awesome.
to, besides the guy who's helping me build it and my wife.
I love it.
We're about to launch a closed group. It'll be a subscription-based group. I've got all this leadership training, right? Through the Ziglers, we've got 9 different courses in different types of leadership. Personal development, goals, relationships, managing people. Okay, how many people in agriculture, how many of us manage people?
Everybody.
Everybody. Has anyone ever given you ideas about how to do that better?
No.
And if you did find it, you'd have to go to a course, or you'd have to. Well, we don't have time for that. So I'm like, what if we took the arsenal of tools that we say will take your life from good to great, and what if we packaged it in such a way that we could deliver it in small segments, either on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis? And it's gonna be a closed group, so it'll be just those of us that want in and are committed to being in. First month's gonna be $1 to join, and after that's gonna be $9 a month. And in that, we're going to deliver on a Facebook group, and then on the website, a closed group on the website, A Gooder Life, and targeting ag and her people, and saying here are some tools that can help you, and what do you need, and how can we help you go from good to great? How can we help fill the gaps that are in your life? How can we help deliver something to you in such an easy way that with a click of a button and in a few minutes of your time, we can start giving you nuggets to help you run and manage and maintain your life in such a way that you do go from good to gooder.
Wow.
Is that not going to be
so
cool?
You heard it first. For the first time on Ag Update, we get to break something new. A Gooder Life.
A Gooder Life.
A Gooder Life. You heard it here first, folks. Very excited, and I love the concept, and I love the idea, because you're exactly right. Because those of us in ag don't have a lot of spare time between what we do, chasing kids and everything else. There's not a lot of extra time in the day to get to do things like that. So, what a great concept! What a great way to deliver that concept too. So,
yeah, we always ask people to come to us.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we come to you?
Well, and you know, I know when you did the Ziegler thing, you were up there for how long?
Weeks.
I remember that time when you were. I followed you on Facebook, and it was hard to keep up with your Facebook posts, much less what you were actually doing, because you were just always.
The first certification I went through was a week-long certification, and we'd start at 7:30 in the morning, and we'd go till that night, and it was Monday till Friday afternoon. And you know, people don't have that kind of time, and it's a crazy investment too to put in. Well, we don't have that kind of time and money. When we're as I say, I can identify. I know what the 5 most important things in almost every person's life are. We may have never. Those of you who are listening, you and I may have never met, and I can still tell you what your top 5 most important things in your life are. At least 3, if I don't get all 5, and that's your faith, that's your family, that's your friends, that's your job, your career, and that's your health. I mean, when it comes down to it, those are the 5 most important things in almost every one of our lives, especially faith, family, and friends. And okay, if I can give you some tools to help you manage faith, family, and friends, and your career and your health better, and do it in a way that is at where you're at, and that's just going to be us sitting across the table from each other having a conversation on a screen, in short little segments, to where it's digestible, but it's also usable, because when it comes down to it, those of us in ag understand the nuts and bolts. We understand that it takes nuts and bolts to make this deal work, and for those of us that grew up poor, it took duct tape and baling wire, right?
Baling wire, a lot of it.
Right? And so we're gonna show you the duct tape and baling wire of your life, and awesome. We're gonna take it from good to gooder.
That is awesome. So
it's gonna be good.
You've heard it here first, folks. Look for it. A Gooder Life. Can't say enough how much I appreciate your time. Like I said, I know your schedule is crazy. Matt Rush, the Gooder guy. That's what I refer to you as the Gooder guy.
Hey, and if anybody, since we haven't launched that yet, if anyone between now and then, which we'll probably launch it next month, between now and then, MattRush.com on Facebook. MattRush.com is my website. If I can ever help you in any way, anybody out there, man, feel free to reach out, and we'd be glad to do it.
Awesome. Always a pleasure to see you again.
You too, my friend.
Cannot tell you how awesome it was to get to be there Friday, and what you do. It just speaks volumes. So,
thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Hey, folks, real quickly, we want to wrap this up, because I am now getting the cutthroat sound from Vanessa. We have set a new record. On Ag Update. We have gone over 50 minutes. So, hey, this will require a little investment of your time to tune in on this, but I think this is absolutely one of the most fun interviews I've ever done, and one of the best for my good friends in ag. So, hey, with that, we always want to say special thanks to our sponsors, the good folks at Birdsong Peanut, Carter & Company Irrigation, Diversity Irrigation, the good folks at Golden Peanuts, of course, the fine folks at Medi-Co-op Gin who allow me to come over and be on the radio once a month. I appreciate those guys. And, hey, if we can help you with your ginning needs, please give us a call. The good folks at Sandia Sprayers, our good friends at Sundown State Bank, the good folks at Tejas Peanut Company, Texas Ag Plus, and, of course, some of my favorite people in the world, Doug and Vicki Melcher at Terry County Tractor. Hey, if you're looking for a Kubota product, go see those fine folks. Always appreciate Doug and Vicki and all that they do in this community for our youth and things like that. So good hometown folks. Go talk to them if you're in the market for a Kubota or a Versatile or anything implement-wise. Our good friend, Dr. Jim Ridenauer at Terry County Vet. Always appreciate Dr. Jim and what he does for our community. Also, very involved with our youth, and appreciate Dr. Jim. And, of course, as I said before, if you need a vet, that is the man to go see, always. And finally, the good folks at the Triple D downtown on the square in Brownfield, looking for a great meal, great place to go. Take the opportunity to try the Triple D. As always, folks, I say thank you to my mother and the original number 11 who are always listening in. Appreciate them and love them and miss them. Hey, with that, folks, I hope you have a great week, and I will be back next month in May to do Ag Update, a little bit late this time. But, hey, Ag Update on demand. Tune us in. And, again, appreciate our good friend Matt Rush joining us today. And with that, folks, have a great week.
You've been listening to Ag Update, Terry County's only weekly ag news show. If it's happening on the farm, we'll talk about it on Ag Update. Thank you for listening, and join us again next week for more news and information on Ag Update on TownTalkRadio.com.